Luxury looks emotional. A handbag, a diamond, a bottle of champagne, a dress on a runway. But behind the beauty is a machine. And Bernard Arnault is the engineer who learned how to make desire print money. Most people think LVMH sells products. That is the surface-level answer. The real business is much deeper. LVMH sells status, scarcity, heritage, identity, and the feeling that you are buying entry into a world most people cannot touch. And that is why this story is not really about fashion. It is about power. It is about control. It is about one man realizing that European luxury brands were beautiful on the outside, but financially inefficient on the inside. Bernard Arnault was not a designer. He was not a celebrity stylist. He was a trained engineer who looked at luxury and saw a system waiting to be optimized. By 2024, his fortune had been estimated at more than $200 billion. His empire controlled dozens of luxury houses across fashion, jewelry, cosmetics, wines, spirits, watches, and retail. But the most important question is not how he became rich. The real question is, how did one man take emotional, artistic, family-run brands and turn them into the most powerful luxury machine on earth? The answer is not glamour. It is acquisitions, restructuring, control of distribution, scarcity, pricing power, family discipline, and a level of corporate patience most people never see coming. This is the story of how Bernard Arnault built LVMH, not as a fashion fantasy, but as a business weapon. The story does not begin in a glamorous Paris boutique. It begins in Roubaix, France in 1949, a grey industrial town built on factories, construction work and discipline. Arnault's father ran a construction and civil engineering business, so young Bernard grew up around concrete, blueprints, budgets, workers and systems. Not perfume bottles, not couture shows, systems. That matters because Arnault's greatest skill was never creativity in the artistic sense. His gift was seeing structures. Who owns what? Who controls what? Where the margin leaks, where power is hiding. He studied at École Polytechnique, one of France's elite engineering schools. That gave him a mindset different from most fashion executives. He did not look at a brand and ask, "Is it beautiful?" He asked, "Can it scale?" After school, he entered the family company, but he quickly saw that traditional construction was not where the big opportunity lived. Real estate had better upside, so he pushed the family business to pivot. This was his first pattern. He did not worship the old business, he dissected it. If an asset was inefficient, he changed it. If a division was weaker, he moved the capital somewhere stronger. Then politics changed the map. In 1981, France elected François Mitterrand. Taxes and business uncertainty pushed Arnault to the United States, and America gave him a new weapon. In the United States, Arnault studied leveraged buyouts. The idea was simple and brutal. Use borrowed money to buy undervalued companies, restructure them, sell weak parts, and keep the crown jewels. This was the moment Arnault's worldview sharpened. Old European brands were not just companies, they were cultural assets, and cultural assets could be bought, controlled, and monetized. He returned to France with a simple thesis. Heritage plus ruthless financial discipline equals power. Then came the target, Boussac Saint-Frère, a giant French textile conglomerate that had collapsed under its own weight. Too many divisions, too much debt, too much history, not enough profit. To most people, Boussac looked like industrial wreckage. To Arnault, it looked like a treasure chest buried under garbage, because inside the mess was Christian Dior. Dior was different. Dior had history, desire, prestige, a name that meant something even to people who could not afford it. That is the secret power of luxury. The brand lives inside the imagination. Arnault did not need to love fashion to understand that. He only needed to understand pricing power. A normal shirt competes on fabric and cost. A luxury shirt competes on meaning. With help from Lazard, Arnault took control of the bankrupt group for a symbolic 1 franc, while assuming debt and promising to save jobs. It sounded like a rescue mission. But Arnault was not there to preserve a museum. He was there to extract value. And once he had control, the rescue mission turned into a corporate surgery. Factories were closed, workers were fired, divisions were sold. The headlines were brutal. The French press called him the Terminator. This is the uncomfortable truth. Luxury empires are not built only with creativity, they are also built with layoffs, asset sales, debt restructuring, and decisions that look ruthless from the outside. But financially, the move worked. After the weak parts were stripped away, the valuable brands remained. Dior became the proof that luxury heritage, under the right owner, could become a cash machine. Arnault had discovered his formula. Find a prestigious brand trapped inside inefficient ownership. Buy control, cut the waste, protect the image, raise the margins, repeat. Now Arnault needed scale. Dior proved the model. But LVMH offered something bigger. Louis Vuitton, Moët, Hennessy, champagne, leather goods, travel prestige, and global luxury power under one roof. LVMH was created in 1987 by merging Moët Hennessy and Louis Vuitton. But this was not a peaceful love story. It was a corporate marriage built on fear. Both sides wanted protection from raiders. But the leaders did not trust each other. They had created a fortress, but inside the fortress the generals were already fighting. This is where Arnault entered like a polite guest at a dinner party, except the guest had already studied the locks, counted the silverware, and planned how to own the house. Louis Vuitton's leadership thought Arnault could help them win the internal power struggle. That was the mistake. When you invite a predator into a fight, he does not have to choose your side. He can choose himself. Arnault teamed up with Guinness and started buying LVMH shares, quietly, strategically, patiently. While everyone argued about control, he was collecting the thing that actually mattered: votes. Then came Black Monday in 1987. Markets crashed, fear spread, LVMH shares fell, and Arnault saw what disciplined investors always see during panic: lower prices. While others were selling to survive the crash, Arnault was buying to win the war. By 1989, he had built a massive blocking stake and the balance of power shifted. Once he had enough influence, the polite investor disappeared. The corporate raider arrived. Arnault pushed out the old leadership and became chairman of LVMH at just 40 years old. This is the moment the empire truly begins. He did not inherit LVMH. He did not gently join it. He took control during confusion, conflict, and market panic. And this is the first major lesson in Arnault's playbook. Crisis is not just danger. For the person with capital, patience, and nerve, crisis is inventory. Now he had the platform. Dior had shown him the formula. LVMH gave him the machine. The next step was to feed that machine with brands. Over the next decades, Arnault turned acquisition into an art form. Givenchy, Celine, Sephora, Fendi, Bulgari, and many more were pulled into the orbit. But Arnault did not buy brands just to own trophies. He bought distribution, pricing power, customer relationships, creative attention, and decades of accumulated cultural trust. That is why luxury is different from normal retail. A normal retailer discounts to move product. A luxury empire would rather protect the dream than chase every possible sale. Arnault understood something brutal. If everyone can have it, it stops being luxury. Scarcity is not a weakness in this business. Scarcity is the product. So LVMH did not just scale supply, it scaled desire. More marketing, more storytelling, more heritage, more celebrity gravity, but always with the feeling that access remained limited. This is why a luxury bag can cost far more than its materials. The raw leather is only one part of the price. The rest is history, status, retail theatre, and controlled perception. Arnault's genius was building a structure where creativity creates the heat, but financial discipline captures the money. He called it decentralization creatively, but centralization financially. Let designers dream, let accountants control the oxygen. The empire worked because LVMH became more than a collection of brands. It became infrastructure, factories, suppliers, stores, real estate, distribution, data, talent, attention. This is vertical integration. Instead of depending on outsiders, LVMH controlled more of the chain. Raw materials, production, retail experience, and customer relationship all moved closer to the center. That control matters. If you control the store, you control the presentation. If you control the staff, you control the customer experience. If you control distribution, you control scarcity. Luxury is fragile. Too much discounting weakens it. Too much availability cheapens it. Too much chaos destroys the aura. Arnault built systems to protect the aura like a financial asset. This is the cold math beneath beauty. The higher the perceived status, the more pricing power. The more pricing power, the higher the margins. The higher the margins, the stronger the empire. But Arnault was not unbeatable. In the late 1990s, he went after Gucci. This became one of the most vicious corporate battles in luxury history. Arnault quietly bought a large stake, moving toward control, but Gucci's leadership fought back hard and brought in François Pinault as a white knight. For once, Arnault lost the prize. Gucci escaped, Pinault won the brand, and the luxury world learned that the wolf in cashmere could bleed. But here is the part that makes Arnault different. Even when he lost, he still made money. His Gucci stake was bought out at a major premium, reportedly handing him hundreds of millions in profit. That is not luck, that is positioning. He had placed himself so close to the prize that even failure paid him. The Gucci defeat also created a rivalry that shaped modern luxury. Arnault and LVMH on one side, Pinault and Kering on the other. Two French billionaires fighting for global desire. And competition forced Arnault to get even sharper. More disciplined, more aggressive, more focused on brands that could dominate globally, not just look elegant locally. That is how LVMH became a machine with multiple engines: fashion and leather goods, wines and spirits, perfumes and cosmetics, watches and jewelry, selective retailing. This diversification is powerful. If one category slows, another can carry the group. If one brand cools, another can heat up. LVMH became a portfolio of desire. But unlike a normal portfolio, these brands also feed each other. A customer who enters through Sephora might graduate to Dior. A watch buyer might later become a jewelry buyer. The ecosystem compounds. This is why Arnault's empire is so difficult to attack. Competitors may fight one brand. LVMH fights with capital, distribution, talent, real estate, data, and patience. Then came Tiffany, an American icon. Blue boxes, engagement rings, cultural memory. For Arnault, Tiffany was not just jewelry. It was an under-optimized global symbol. LVMH agreed to buy Tiffany for nearly $16 billion. Then, the pandemic hit. Luxury demand shook, and Arnault tried to renegotiate. Even in acquisition, he wanted the better price. The deal eventually closed, and Tiffany entered the empire. But the lesson was clear. Arnault does not just buy famous things. He buys famous things when he believes control can unlock more value. After Tiffany, the empire looked almost impossible to ignore. LVMH was not just selling to the rich, it was selling the image of becoming richer, more refined, more rare. That is the hidden genius of luxury. The customer pays for an object, but the object is only the receipt. What they really bought was a story about themselves. Arnault understood this better than almost anyone. He did not just manage brands, he managed dreams with quarterly discipline, and that discipline showed in the numbers. LVMH became a revenue giant, a margin machine, and one of Europe's most valuable corporate empires. But the richer Arnault became, the more important one question became: what happens to the machine after him? This is where Arnault's story shifts from empire building to dynasty building, because wealth is hard to build, but sometimes even harder to transfer without destroying the family that controls it. Arnault has 5 children: Delphine, Antoine, Alexandre, Frédéric, and Jean. And unlike heirs kept far away from the business, his children were placed directly inside the machine. This was not just nepotism, it was training. Monthly lunches reportedly became strategy sessions. Margins, brands, deals, competitors, succession. The family table became a boardroom. But Arnault knew family empires can implode. Siblings fight, shares get sold, outsiders enter. The founder dies, and the machine becomes a battlefield. So he built a legal cage around the fortune. Through the family holding company, the children received equal stakes, but the structure made selling and betrayal extremely difficult. The message was clear. You are rich together, or you are frozen together. Arnault engineered not only a luxury empire, but a family operating system. That is the engineer's mind again. Most founders hope their children cooperate. Arnault designed a structure where cooperation became the only practical option. And that is why his wealth is different from a quick tech fortune. It is built on brands that can survive decades, products with pricing power, and a structure meant to outlive the founder. Bernard Arnault became one of the world's richest people because he did not simply chase trends. He bought assets that could turn culture into cash flow. A runway show creates attention. A boutique converts attention into revenue. A brand converts revenue into status. And LVMH converts status into compounding corporate power. So what is the real lesson? Bernard Arnault did not invent luxury. He industrialized it. He took emotion and wrapped it in operational control. He understood that beauty attracts attention, but systems capture value. Designers create desire. Distribution controls access. Pricing power protects margins. Ownership keeps the upside. That is why LVMH became so powerful. It owns the brands, the stores, the customer experience, the scarcity, the pricing, and the story. And the most brutal truth is this. Luxury is not expensive because it costs that much to make. Luxury is expensive because the machine is designed to make you believe it is worth that much. Bernard Arnault's empire is the architecture of desire, not random glamour, not accidental wealth, a carefully engineered system that turns human aspiration into profit. What do you think? Is Bernard Arnault a creative genius, a ruthless corporate raider, or the greatest engineer of luxury capitalism? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. If you enjoyed the story of how Bernard Arnault built the world's largest luxury empire, then you'll love the story of the missing billions of Wirecard. Click the video on your screen now. I'll see you there.